how are you? Hope you're well. So, I'm here today to start a very exciting video. Obviously, you've read the title, so you know today I'm going to start reading the oldest book on my TBR. And let me tell you, I think I talked about this in my mid-year tag. I've had this book for approximately 2 years. I forget when I got it, but I do know it's been over a year and a half. It's been probably at least 2 years, maybe even 2.5. I'm not entirely sure, but I need to start it. I'm sure you're wondering, why have I put this book off? Is it a particularly difficult book to read? Is it a new genre for me? Is it a book that is notoriously well written to a point where it makes you think a lot? No. None of the above. The book that I have been struggling to pick up is actually Dreams Lie Beneath by Rebecca Ross. I was actually walking in the bookshop one day and I saw this cover and thought, wow, that is giving Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson, and I wanted to read it since then. And then one day we were in the bookshop with my boyfriend's stepmom and his dad, and she offered to buy me a book, so I picked this one. Why do I refuse to pick it up? Do I not want to read it? No, I want to read it really, really badly. It reminds me of my favorite book, one of my favorite books ever. It looks really interesting. It's a young adult fantasy. If I'm not wrong, Rebecca Ross is the author of Divine Rivals, and therefore she is a very well-known, well-loved, well-renowned author. So there is absolutely no reason why I'm putting this off, other than the fact that for some reason I have just refused to pick it up. There is genuinely no good reason. I've wanted to read it desperately since the day that I saw it, including every time I look at my shelf and I see it and I'm like, ooh, I should read that, and then I pick something else instead. I don't know why. This is just that book where for some reason I never ever reach for it, and I've decided this year it looks good. I'm probably going to like it. The map is made by the same artist that made the Once Upon a Broken Hearts maps, which is another bonus because I'm insane. There is no reason I should be putting it off, and there's absolutely no way that I'm taking this book into 2025 with me. I will be reading it this year. I did want to film this video more so to keep myself accountable to read it rather than because I wanted to document the experience. However, I actually started it this morning. I've only read one chapter. I'm 2% in, not far at all. But I read chapter 1. I'm like, why did I put this off? Magic, the vibes are, I'm annoying. That's really it. But I started this. We're gonna document it together. Because this isn't really a popular book, like I've never ever heard anybody ever talk about this, I'm gonna make the spoiler free so that if it's wonderful, I can convince you to read it. But I'm annoying. Look at it. Why would I put it off for 2 years? It makes absolutely no sense. I'm annoying. I'll be back. I started it. I'm excited. We're doing this. We are tackling this book, and I'm going to be reading it, and it's going to be great and fantastic and wonderful, and I will not let it go any other way because I didn't wait 2 years to read a bad book. Okay, yeah, I'll check in. I'm about halfway through chapter 15, and I haven't really made that big of a dent yet, but so far I'm kind of bored, to be honest. It feels like not much is happening, and especially according to what's on the back, like it's just not what I thought it would be, and I don't know. I don't know how I'm feeling. I'm kind of struggling to find motivation to read this a little bit, so I might start listening to the audiobook in addition to reading this because I don't know. I want to get to the action, and I don't know. This isn't how I thought it would go. So I'm a little bit further into the book. I'm about 45-ish% through right now, and it's gotten a bit less boring because some of the romance tension has started, but that was only maybe a couple of chapters ago, so maybe this many pages ago, around like the 180
175-ish mark. So it is picking up and I'm becoming more hopeful, and I'm hoping they're on a new moon right now, so they're hunting nightmares again, and I'm just hoping it gets more interesting from here, or at least that the romance becomes like a thing so that it's interesting to read. Essentially halfway through and it's picking up.
Hi, I'm back. So I obviously finished this book and I do feel very conflicted over it because the covers was giving Sorcery of Thorns, and that's what I wanted when I went into this. It was the only reason I picked this up. I looked at the cover and it reminded me of Sorcery of Thorns and I wanted that. The plot was pretty interesting. However, I did find myself bored a lot of the time. I did have to get the audiobook and like listen to a lot of it to get through it, and I don't want to strike the book for that too much because, as you are all probably aware at this point, this reading year has been tough for me. I've kind of been going through like a year-long slump of just like nothing really hitting the way I wanted to. Mine are just a few reads here and there, so I don't want to like punish the book for not keeping my interest when that's just a consistent problem that I've been facing this year, but it was a problem that I had. And the facts of the matter is, I just wish more happened. It felt like a lot of the action only happened on like the new moons or the full moons or whatever you call it, when they would have to go fight the nightmares, and that would only happen once a month, obviously. And this book takes place over several months and a lot of time in between pauses, and it's kind of just them chit-chatting a little bit, like being enemies and stuff. And it's just, I don't know, I just wish there was more action. I wish more happened. It felt very lackluster in the first half to 75% of just kind of like, oh yeah, just like every 30 to 50 pages, every 50-ish pages, there is like a fight scene that is over relatively quickly. And in general, the romance didn't have much tension as well. Like, that's what I felt this book lacked, a lot. Tension. I love a good slow burn romance, okay? Like, that's one of my favorite types of romances. But it took over halfway to 50 pages for there to be any kind of tension between the characters. She hated him. He kind of was just doing his thing, you know, unaware, and there was no tension between the two of them until after 250 pages in. And the reason why I love slow burn so much is because of all the tension that there is. But there just was no tension. So what even was, you know, it just, and then when there was, it felt kind of quick almost, because it's like there was nothing for 250 pages, and all of a sudden you're just in love, you know what I mean? And then also the world building, in my opinion, was not great. I was left with a lot of questions. I do think that the atmosphere was very well created. Like, I could feel the atmosphere and I could feel like I was there, but the actual world building, there was a lot of questions that I had once this book was over. And listen, I don't think too deeply when I read books. I'm here for a good time, not an educational time. So the fact that I left the book with questions is kind of worrisome. But some of the questions that I left with are, how do magicians get their magic? Based on some things, it's clear that they're not born with it. So how do you get magic in this world? Why do magicians not have a shadow? Because that's a thing. Why is that a thing? What even is the mountain of Dushi? I don't even know how to say it, but what is it? It's kind of explained a little bit where it's like, oh yeah, that's where like the curse happened and stuff. But it's like, is it a town? Is it a kingdom? Is that where all like the magic people live? Like, what is it? I don't ever remember getting a clear answer to that. If there was one, I missed it. And then what's the difference between the types of magic mentioned and how they work? Because she mentions at least 3, like Metamora, Avartana, I don't even know what they're called, but there's at least 2 to 3 different kinds of magic, and she's just throwing those words around where it's just like, oh, my mom's this kind and my dad's this kind, but I study both and this and that. But it's like, what are they? The biggest description we get is the one is show magic and the other one is like used to protect people and heal people. But also it's kind of like, okay, but you can make bottles shrink and make stuff float and heal cut, and it just, how does the magic work? What are the different kinds? Is there even a difference between them? Because it doesn't seem like it. As you can tell based on the questions, like they're pretty big questions that don't have answers to them, and they're kind of important in order to understand the world that this whole story is set in. So that's kind of why I'm frustrated, because I just kind of left feeling unfulfilled and confused. And then the reason I'm conflicted is because I want to like this book. I could see the world very clearly. The atmosphere was described stunningly, and I want to give it props for that, but also there are just so many problems with this book that I had that I could not give it more than a 3.5, and I was really hoping for it to be above a 4, and that's just why I feel so conflicted, because it was a disappointment, honestly. I never read it because I was scared I wouldn't like it, and I wanted to like it, and that's exactly what happened, and I'm so sad about that. I don't really know what can fix it. Maybe if I read it at a different time, maybe if it had been one of the first ever fantasies that I read where I knew less, maybe if it was written just a little bit better, or maybe if like a different author had written the story. I don't know. But I'm disappointed and sad, and this is not how I thought it would go. And it sucks too, because the atmosphere is so good, you do get sucked into it. It's just everything else was kind of lacking. And then I kind of described it at the end of my review as it's as if someone gave you your perfect favorite meal, but then forgot to season it. So let's say your perfect meal is pasta, but then they didn't add any salt to any of it, you know? Like, that's what this book felt like, where it's like, so close, you forgot the very tiny important part. So I am disappointed. That being said, if this book sounds interesting to you, I definitely do think that you should still give it a shot, because maybe the problems that I have you won't find are problems for you. And again, the atmosphere is stunning and fantastic, and it's a standalone fantasy, which is very rare to find. So, you know, and especially if you're new to fantasy, I think this book is kind of perfect, because then you get to really like baby step your way into it. And I think with fantasy that's kind of important. I don't think fantasy is a genre you can kind of dive headfirst into, at least not for me. If you have read Dreams Lie Beneath, please let me know if you also found the same problems I did, or if you thought it was perfect 5 stars. And if you have any answers to my questions, please go ahead and give them to me. If you like me or my videos, I really appreciate a like, comment, and subscribe if you feel like it. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much. Bye.